Shalom, 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 shalom. First, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kadash, and double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, the elders of Great Millstone, who are leading this word in truth and in spirit and in sincerity. And salutations, all of the righteous Hebrew Israelite brothers out there that are teaching this word on the highways and byways in truth and spirit and in sincerity, and on the different streaming platforms, in the name of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, not in the name of Jesus Christ. I like to say that. So shalom to the hopefully elect brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, for those of you that are able to be edified by this truth and able to receive this word. As we always say, we give praises to our Savior, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, which is the Father, Yahweh, He is, and the Son, Yahweh Shai, He is the deliverer, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus Christ. For those of you who don't know what we are talking about when we give praises to our Lord in the Hebrew, in their true names, in the true power of their names. So anyway, today's edification was for those of you that have taken the vax, and for those of you that haven't, read and weep. All right? Because when we warned you about these pharmaceuticals and these government institutions and how they work hand in hand together, we're going to just quickly read through this article and bring out a few precepts on the way. All right. Now, we're on the United States Department of Justice website. All right. The United States Department of Justice website we're on. All right. This is the Justice Department. This is the American government. This is the highest law enforcement agency you can get, right? It's the Department of Justice. There's no higher than the Department of Justice when it comes to law enforcement in America. So, when we tell you about these pharmaceuticals, these big pharma companies, and what they're up to and what they do and what they continue to do in terms of their lies, their deceit, their deception, how they're able to convince the world and work with certain government institutions to be able to produce products. We're going to call it products to make billions and billions of dollars off of. Well, here you go. Now, this was released to the public office last year, right? October the 21st, 2020, literally a year ago. It says here, Justice Department announces global resolution. This is what they call it, right? This is what they call it. Global resolution of criminal and civil investigations with opioid manufacturer Purdue Pharma, which was one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in America, right? And civil settlement with members of the Sackler family. Now, Purdue was owned by the Sackler family, and it was a private pharmaceutical corporation, right? It wasn't in the stock market, in the public domain. So, let's just quickly read through this, right? It's not a long read. Let's quickly read through it, and then we're going to pull out some scriptures to show you how devious this devil is, boy. When we say never trust thy enemy, we truly mean never trust thy enemy. So it says here, today the Department of Justice announced a global resolution of its criminal and civil investigation into the opioid manufacturer Purdue Pharma, right? LP Purdue, right? And a civil resolution of its civil investigation into individual shareholders from the Sackler family, because these were all co-conspirators. All of the Sackler family that owned Purdue, they were all co-conspirators in this greatest fraud in the pharmaceutical industry that we know about, right? In the aid of making money, right? Same thing that you see with the jab. One booster after another booster, this third booster, fourth booster, fifth booster, and all this bullshit, right? First you need your first jab, then this is a second jab. Now it was a 12 months booster. Now it went down to a 6 months booster. Now it's coming down to a 3-month booster. You stay there following these devils, boy. Those of you that have gone out and trusted this devil and taken his poison, all right? It says the resolutions with Purdue are subject to approval of the bankruptcy court. It says the abuse, the abuse and diversion of prescription opioids has contributed to a national tragedy of addiction and deaths, in addition to those caused by illicit street opioids, said Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey A. Rosen. With criminal guilty pleas, a federal settlement of more than $8 billion, and the dissolution of a company and the repurposing its assets entirely for the public's benefit. The resolution in today's announcements reaffirms that the Department of Justice will not relent in its multi-pronged efforts to combat the opioid crisis. Why? Because this predominantly affected Esau, the Edomites, the opioid crisis. This was like 80% or 90% Edomites that died from this, that was affected from this, that families were destroyed from it. But I just want to show you how wicked these pharmaceutical companies are. Right? You think they've got little love for their own people, more or less for us, for the children of Israel. Right? Just so you can understand how wicked they are. So it says here, today's resolution is the result of years of hard work by the FBI and its partners to combat the opioid crisis in the US. Right? They weren't as active as that when there was a crack crisis. When it was the crack crisis, right? When crack was the crisis in America in the 80s, right? Because I remember I lived in America during the 80s, right, and the 90s. All they was concerned about was smashing heads and putting you in jail. Smashing heads and putting you in jail. They weren't concerned about curing you or finding the source of the product. Where was it coming from? Who was flooding your neighborhoods with it? Because it was them. It was these same devils. There was the CIA, the United States government, that was flooding our neighborhoods with the crack cocaine that devastated the neighborhoods of the children of Israel. Right? So, but this is devastating the neighborhoods of Esau, the Edomites. So their hand was forced to go after their own devils. In this case here, with this family called the Sackler family. All right, you may or may not have heard of them. So it says here, Purdue, through greed and violation of the law, prioritized money over the health and well-being of patients. And we tell the same thing they're doing today. We're not under any illusions that this is the same thing that's going on with the jab. All right? It says the FBI remains committed to holding companies accountable for their illegal and inexcusable activity and to seeking justice on behalf of the victims for those who contributed to the opioid crisis, because the opioid crisis devastated Esau's neighborhoods, the Edomites, from the high class to the middle class to the low class of Esau. It says the opioid epidemic remains a significant public health challenge that impacts the lives of men and women across the country, said Gary L. Cantrell, Deputy Inspector for Investigations at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, right? Office for Inspector General. Unfortunately, Purdue's reckless actions and violation of the law senselessly risk patients' health and well-being. With our law enforcement partners, we will continue to combat the opioid crisis, including holding the pharmaceutical industry and its executives accountable. All right? But see, the devastation has already been done. Just like we're telling you the devastation that they're doing with Maxine and the jab, it's already been done, the devastation. For those of you that have been open arms to this jab and to Maxine, the devastation has already been done. No different to what they did back then with this the opioid, because the devastation is done. The addicts are out there now. They can't stop these addicts from craving for opioid, right? It's too late. But I'm just going to make you understand what's going on, how these pharmaceuticals work. It says this resolution closes a particularly sad chapter in the ongoing battle against opioid addiction, said Drug Enforcement Administration DEA Assistant Administrator Tim McDermott. Purdue Pharma actively thwarted right, the United States efforts to ensure compliance and prevent diversions. The devastating ripple effect of Purdue's actions left lives lost and others addicted. DEA will continue to work tirelessly with our partners and the pharmaceutical industry to address the damage that has been done and bring an end to this epidemic that has gripped the nation for far too long. So what's gripping the nation today? What's been gripped? What's had a grip and a noose around the nation's neck since 2019? Mr. C and his family, right? Mr. C and his variants, right? We're going to call him Mr. C. Mr. C and his variants has had a grip on the nation today since 2019 for the last 3 years. There is no new thing under the sun. It says Purdue Pharma. Let me just get that one out. Let me get it out. Ecclesiastics 1 and 9. Just so you understand, I'm going to go back to it. The thing that has been, oxycodone, it is that which shall be, the Maxine. And that which is done, they've done it already with oxycodone, is that which shall be done. They're doing it again today with Maxine, right? With the jab. And there is no new thing under the sun. There is no new thing under the sun when it comes to Esau and his tactics and what these elites do and how they pursue the things they do to make money. There is no new thing under the sun. Just wanted to get that one out. Anyway, it says Purdue Pharma has agreed to plead guilty in federal court in New Jersey to a 3-count felony information, charging it with 1 count of dual object conspiracy to defraud the United States and to violate the Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act, and 2 counts of conspiracy to violate the federal anti-kickback statute. The criminal resolution against the largest includes the largest penalties ever levied against a pharmaceutical manufacturer, including a criminal fine of $3.54 billion. 3.54 billion, sorry, 3.54 billion. And an additional 2 billion in criminal fortitude, right? For the 2 billion forfeiture, yeah, for the 2 billion forfeiture, the company will pay £225 million on the effective date of the bankruptcy. And as further explained below, the department is willing to credit the value conferred by the company to the state and local governments under the Department of Anti-Pilling on the coordination policy. Purdue has also agreed to a civil settlement in the amount of $2.8 billion to resolve its civil liability under the False Claims Act. Separately, the Sackler family has agreed to pay $225 million in damages to resolve its civil False Claims Act liability. So what the company did, they filed for bankruptcy, right? So that the Sackler family, because it's a privately owned company, they'd already taken out all of the profits out of the company, all the money out of the company. So whatever assets the company may have, that's what they're going to use to try to repair the damage that they've done with the addiction across the United States, and the families that children have died, and the breaking up of the families and the destruction of the family, and the crime wave that's come with those opioid addicts. And so this is what they're looking to do, all right, with this settlement. But the company filed for bankruptcy, so there's very little liability on the Sacklers because they've already taken the money out. So what they're agreeing here, this $225 million in damages to resolve its Civil False Claims Act, that's what the Sackler family has agreed to pay, is peanuts to what they've made out of the opioid crisis over the last 20 years of selling Oxycontin. It says the resolutions do not include the criminal release of any individuals, including members of the Sackler family, nor are any of the company's executives or employees receiving civil releases. It says, while the global resolution with the company is subject to approval by the bankruptcy court in the Southern District of New York, one important condition in the resolution is that the company would cease to operate in its current form and would instead emerge from bankruptcy as what? As a public benefit company. That's what they do, boy. File for bankruptcy in one name and then re-emerge in another name. But that's how the devil works, right? So it said instead it will emerge from bankruptcy as a public benefit company, PBC, owned by a trust or similar entity designed for the benefit of the American public to function entirely in the public interest. Well, so they say, in the public interest. Can you believe that? It says, indeed, not only will the PBC endeavor to deliver legitimate prescription drugs in a manner as safe as possible, but it will aim to donate or provide steep discounts for life-saving overdose rescue drugs and medically assisted treatment medications to communities, and the proceeds of the trust will be directed towards the state and local opioid abatement programs, right? So those are like your drug programs, right? Your rehab programs. It says, based on the value that would be conferred to state and local governments through the PBC, the department is willing to credit up to $1.7 billion against the agreed $2 billion forfeiture amount. The department looks forward to working with creditors groups in the bankruptcy and charging the path forward for this PBC so that its public health goals can be accomplished. The criminal pleas. Let's listen to what the criminal pleas are of these devils, right? It says, as part of the plea, Purdue will admit from May 2007 through to at least March 2017, Purdue conspired to defraud the United States by impeding the lawful function of the DEA by representing to the DEA that Purdue maintained an effective anti-diversion program when, in fact, Purdue continued to market its opioid products to more than 100 healthcare providers whom the company had good reason to believe were delivering opioids, and by reporting misleading information to the DEA to boost Purdue's manufacturing quotas. The misleading information comprised of prescription data that included prescriptions written by doctors that Purdue had good reason to believe were engaged in diversion. Pure conspiracy and lies, boy, these devils, boy. The conspiracy also involved aiding and abetting violations of the Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act by facilitating and dispensing of its opioid products, including oxycodone, without a legitimate medical purpose and thus without lawful prescriptions. In addition, Purdue will admit to conspiring to violate the federal anti-kickback statute between June 2009 and March 2017. Purdue made payments to 2 doctors through Purdue's Doctors Speaker program to induce those doctors to write more prescriptions of Purdue's opioid products. Just like what you see them do now, right? They're inducing the hospitals and the doctors and the governments to say you need a third this booster, 1 booster, 2 booster, 3 boosters, now a booster every 6 months, a booster every 3 months. We're not seeing anything different happening now, right? It says similarities from approximately April 2016 through to December 2016. Purdue made payments to Practice Fusion Incorporation, an electronic health records company, in exchange for referring, recommending, and arranging for the ordering of Purdue's extended release opioid products, Oxycontin, Bertrand's, and Hysingla. Sounds like Moderna, Pfizer, and what's the other one? AstraZeneca, right? It says here, the civil settlements. The Department of Civil Settlements resolved the United States claims as to both Purdue and its individual shareholders for the family. Right? It says here, it says the Department's Civil Settlements resolved the United States claims as to both Purdue and its individual shareholders, members of the Sackler family. It's a privately owned company, right, before all of this came to head. The civil settlement with Purdue provides the United States with an allowed, unsubordinated, general unsecured bankruptcy claim for recovery of $2.8 billion, right, to meet their settlements, right? This settlement resolves allegations that from 2010 to 2018, Purdue caused false claims to be submitted to the federal health care programs. Same thing that you see Fauci's going on with, with these false claims, right? Specifically, Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE, the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, and the Indian Health Service. Oh. It says the government alleged that Purdue promoted its opioid drugs to healthcare providers it knew were prescribing opioids for use that was unsafe, ineffective, and medically unnecessary, and that often led to abuse and diversions. For example, Purdue learned that one doctor was known by patients as the Candyman, and was prescribing crazy doses of Oxycontin. Yet Purdue had sales representatives meet with the doctor more than 300 times. It also resolves the government's allegations that Purdue engaged in 3 different kickback schemes to induce prescriptions of its opioid. First, Purdue paid certain doctors ostensibly to provide educational talks to other healthcare professionals and serve as consultants, but in reality, to induce them to prescribe more Oxycontin. Second, Purdue paid kickbacks to practice fusion, as described above. Third, Purdue entered into contracts with certain specialty pharmacies to fill prescriptions for Purdue's opioid drugs that other pharmacies had rejected as potentially lacking medical necessity. Under a separate civil settlement, individual members of the Sackler family will pay the United States $225 million arising from the alleged conduct of Dr. Richard Sackler, David Sackler, Mortimer D.A. Sackler, Dr. Kathy Sackler. All of them were doctors, right? All of these Purdue family members were doctors. My gosh, boy, these people are the devil themselves, right? And Jonathan Sackler, the named Sacklers. This settlement resolves allegations that in 2012, the named Sacklers, who we just named, knew that the legitimate market for Purdue's opioids, right, had contracted. Nevertheless, they requested that Purdue executives recapture lost sales and increase Purdue's share of the opioid market. The named Sacklers then approved a new marketing program beginning in 2013 called Evolve to Excellence, through which Purdue sales representatives intensified their marketing of Oxycontin to extreme high volume prescribers who were already writing 25 times as many Oxycontin scripts as their peers, causing healthcare providers to prescribe opioids for uses that were unsafe, ineffective, and medically unnecessary. Does that not sound like the jab? Does not sound like the jab family? And that often led to abuse and diversion. The civil settlement also resolves the government's allegations that from approximately 2008 to 2018, at the named Sackler's request, Purdue transferred assets into Sackler family holding companies and trusts that were made to hinder future creditors and or were otherwise voidable as fraudulent transfers. Today's resolution does not resolve claims that states may have against Purdue or members of the Sackler family, nor does it impede the debtor's ability to recover any fraudulent transfers. I'm just going to show you, there's no new thing under the sun when it comes to this devil. There's no new thing. Let's grab the scriptures here. No new thing under the sun when it comes to these devils. So, let's bring out a couple precepts here. Micah, what comes to mind? I just wanted to show you, boy, for those of you that have faith in this devil, right? And his jab and what he's trying to get you to do. Well, this is what the scripture says, right? Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in their power because it is in the power of their hand. You see, it was in the power of the Purdue, of the Sackler family's hand to do what they did. And they did it for 20 years, and they didn't give a shit how many people were dying. And remember, 90% of those addicts with this oxycodone, this opioid, were Edomites. That's how wicked this devil is. I just want to show you. He didn't give a shit because it was in his power. And remember, the man that helped them classify the opioid, the oxycodone, that worked for the FDA, the Food and Drug Agency, the year he classified their drug as non-addictive, he went and worked for Purdue the following year and quadrupled his wages. The same man that signed it off, that was working for the FDA. Just so you understand how these devils work, boy. They don't give a shit. They do not give a shit. The scripture says, is it Ecclesiasticus? These devils don't give a shit, man. Like I said, boy, you see they do this to their own people. Imagine what they're doing to us. Is it 10 and 12? 12 and 10? No, sorry. 12. 12 and 10. Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 verse 10. It says, never, never trust thy enemy. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Precepts, family. Yes, because what's the other one? There's a couple of precepts I want to bring out on how this devil works, boy. Where was I? Ecclesiasticus. Another precept here that I want to pull out. Psalms 58. Yeah, this man is the devil, man. You better believe this man is the devil. And I can't say it enough. He's wicked enough to do this to his own fellow Edomites. Imagine what he's doing to Israel. How he sees us. It says, do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do you judge uprightly, O you sons of men? Yea, in heart you work wickedness. You weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. That's Esau. He weighs the violence of his hands in the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. These devils are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. I can't say this enough. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stops the ear. They don't want to hear what we got to say. These devils, like I said, man, when these devils can treat their own like that, their fellow Edomites like that, because this thing, right, was an epidemic and still is today amongst Esau. Which will not hearken to the voice of the charmers. They're not going to hearken to our voice. We are the enemy. We men that teach this truth, we are considered the enemy. They're not going to hearken to our voice. We are the voice of the charmers. Charming never so wisely. We are charming ever so wisely by telling you how these devils operate. When we tell you, boy, to don't take the jab, boy, we say it for a reason, family. Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Yahweh. These devils, man, they charm so nicely. Sorry, these devils, right? They move so wickedly. We are the charmers. We are charming so nicely when we preaching this word. But these devils, boy. Psalms 140. It's just a warning once again to when we tell you about what's going on, boy. Psalms 140 verse 1. Deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. That's Esau. His blessing was a sword and the fatness of the earth, which imagine mischief in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. Because we are their enemies. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. That's what they've done. Keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who has proposed to overthrow my goings. That's what when the scripture says, boy, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, boy. You better believe it. You better believe that it's the wicked that runs this world, boy. Because this man, he's as callous as they come. Isaiah. Couple more. And I'll leave that article in the description box as well. I mean, we went all through it, but, you know, if you want to look at it in more detail, even more closer, you can. Isaiah 26, verse 10. Let favor be shown to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly, and will not behold the majesty of the Lord. Let favor be shown to the wicked, boy. This man is something else. Couple more. Shut this down. It's going to be a quick one. Psalms 73. We'll go to... For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. But you see, it's coming for them. They are not in trouble as other men. You see, none of them have gone to jail, you know. The amount of people have died from this opioid crisis, not a single one of the Sackler family has gone to jail. Because they are not in trouble as other men. They know how to work the system. They got the people all in the right places. It says, neither are they plagued like other men. They're not plagued like other men. They willingly misled the government. They willingly had someone inside the government working with them. They willingly did this for 20 years, misled the doctors and the hospitals to say that dear oxycontin was not addictive, when yet they knew it was. And every 6 months they doubled the dose. First it was 10 milligrams, you could buy the tablets. Then it was 20 milligrams 6 months later. 6 months later it was 40 milligram tablets of opioid. 6 months later it was 80 milligram tablets. 6 months later, past that, it was 160 milligram tablets that you could buy. So the dosage was getting stronger that you could buy. Because they wanted them to be addictive. They just wanted the money. They didn't care who was going to die, what families were going to be destroyed, how it was going to affect, how the crime was going to run rapid in the neighborhoods. They didn't care that it was their fellow Edomites that they was killing and destroying, making their money, Esau. Because they are not in trouble as other men. These elites of Esau, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore, pride compasses them about as a chain. Violence covers them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness. All they could see was money. They have more than their heart could wish. More. They were making billions and billions and billions from this. Remember what it said here? It said, with a criminal guilty plea, a federal settlement of more than 8 billion and the dissolution of a company and the repurposing of its assets entirely for the public's benefit. The resolution in today's announcement reaffirms that the Department of Justice will not relent in its multi-pronged effort to combat the opioids crisis. So the government was looking to get 8 billion. They must have made over 100 billion. But that's the devil. That's the devil. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than their heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. They speak wickedly concerning oppression. And we read that, right? They said, what did they say? They said, it said, Purdue maintained an effective anti-diversion program when in fact Purdue continued to market its opioid products to more than 100 healthcare providers whom the company had good reason to believe were diverting opioids and reporting misleading information to the DEA to boost Purdue's manufacturing quotas. It says here, the misleading information comprised prescription data that included prescriptions written by doctors that Purdue had good reasons to believe were engaged in diversion. It says here, the conspiracy also involved aiding and abetting violations of the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act by facilitating the dispensing of its opioid products, including oxycodone, without a legitimate medical purpose, and thus without lawful prescription. This is the devil family. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. And you want to go and take the jab from these devils? You're trusting these devils to give it this jab? Okay. They set their mouth against the heavens and their tongues walketh through the earth. They don't give a F-U-C-K, excuse my French. Therefore, these people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out of them. And they say, this is what they say, right? How does the Most High know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? That's how they think. That's what they say. Is there knowledge in the Most High? How does the Most High know? Is there knowledge in the Most High? That's what the devil is saying. That's what these Edomites are saying, right? Is there knowledge in the Most High? I tell you, this is so on point, boy. The scriptures are so on point. Behold, those are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. It's as simple as that, right? So, I don't need to say any more. I'm going to leave it there. I pray you are edified by today's edification. As always, I give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom, shalom, family. Till we meet again, all praises and glory. Today is December the 1st, 2021. Do not trust thy enemy. For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. I can't say it enough. I might have to call it that. Today's edification. Shalom, family. All praises.